Max Payne is one of those games that seems to live in 2 or 3 worlds at once. On one side, it's remembered for its slow-motion gunfights and bullet-time dives, along with that iconic noir atmosphere. And then on the other hand, it's become a legend for reasons the developers probably never intended. The munted face, the over-the-top metaphors, the kind of dialogue that sounds like a kid trying to write a poem in GCSE English class after watching The Matrix. And that mix is exactly why it's great. Now, Max Payne isn't just a cult classic for these reasons though. It even draws on a huge amount of inspiration from Norse mythology. And it does so in quite an interesting way, which I'll explain how on earth this is possible in a modern detective noir action shooter later. So, what is Max Payne 1 all about?
That kind of depends on who's asking.
Oh, and on top of all of that, turns out Remedy are currently in production of a remake of both Max Payne 1 and 2, and that's meant to release in 2026. So, let's dive back into the dark, snowy streets of New York and see why Max Payne still hits harder than a bullet-time shotgun blast to a goon's ballsack. Max Payne starts out with a cinematic shot of a helicopter flying into a snowy New York. We hear over a police radio that shots have been fired and an assault is in progress. As the scene establishes itself, we hear that officers are in danger. This noir atmosphere is then strengthened by the insanely iconic voice acting of the late James McCaffrey, the voice actor playing Max Payne.
They were all dead.
How this guy's voice is so bassy, bro is literally making my ass quake right now with those low tones. It's so impactful, and I don't think before this game that there are many examples of such stylized, poetic, and deep voice acting in gaming. So it was a differentiator for the fans then and there. It grabs you by the cock and it's like, damn, this dude is pretty mental. Oh, and this dude's face card, meme protagonist, right there. All within the first minute of the game. Mr. Payne then explains that to make any sense of the scene that you're watching, of him standing all munted at the top of the building, we need to go back 3 years. Yes, this is one of those stories that start at the end, which I guess is a bit spoilery, but Max Payne isn't really about said story. It's about the batshit crazy action and ball-busting bullet-time dives you make along the way. Starting at the beginning now, and Max is working in the NYPD. He's having a conversation with a DEA agent that's offering him a job to come and work with him instead as an undercover agent. However, Max declines, stating that Michelle and his baby come first. He's a real family man, #can relate, and he says he's giving up smoking for that reason too. #cannot relate. You'll notice that you seem to be enjoying this story in a comic strip panel format, and the reason for that was, you guessed it, money. The game was poor as shit and didn't have any money for cutscenes. Let's all laugh at the poor game. But when constraints are there, such as money, sometimes it inspires the developers of these games to innovate. And in the case of Max Payne, these comic book panels not only somehow helped contribute to that dark action noir vibe, but also actually feel better than cutscenes. Or at least the kind of cutscenes they would have been able to achieve at the time with the money they had. At least for me in the present day, who's now enjoyed over 1 million hours of AAA cutscenes as a result of being a Hideo Kojima fanboy. What I'm trying to say is, if I didn't know they were strapped for cash, I would say this was great artistic direction. Anyway, Max takes us back to his perfect house in his perfect community, noting that his American dream had come true with his beautiful wife and a beautiful baby girl. We get a taste of Max's dark poetry and metaphorical monologues too here.
But dreams have a nasty habit of going bad when you're not looking.
And this is something that would become a staple of Max Payne's character. Like, dude, you didn't have to write this character this hard. Like, this is such good writing. If I looked up at the sunset and naturally emitted words like practice bravado, I would be so happy.
If I could say ass pussy to the counselor, I would be so happy.
I take 5 hours trying to figure out the controls to pilot this poet laureate, and after I have a good play around with the slow motion diving shooting mechanic, I decide now would be a good time to find my wife. The phone is ringing incessantly, so I pick it up.
Listen, someone's broken into my house. Call 911.
Is this the Payne residence?
Why is he picking up his house phone to someone calling him and asking them to call 911? That's not how you make an emergency call, buddy. You have to dial 911 yourself. You don't wait for someone to call you to tell them to do it.
Hey, who is this?
Is this the Krusty Krab?
No, this is badass CJ.
Anyway, there seems to be some mean-ass grandma on the other end of the line, taking joy in the fact that they're not going to help us dial 911. When we get upstairs, we hear some frankly horrifying sounds of our wife struggling and a man shouting at her. And worse than this, our baby crying before... And then a brutal scene revealing that our infant daughter has been killed. As a dad myself, this kind of awoke this anger inside of me immediately, and I got into the next room and just... twat. Unfortunately, my wife has also too been slain in Minecraft. This is truly #sad. I tried to revive her with the power of my dual Berettas, the only medicine I knew how to use, but it didn't work. Max takes a moment to... After that recap, we rejoin Max in the present day. It seems he's broken bad a little and has accepted a job with the DEA as an undercover agent. Why? Because those men that brutally murdered Max Payne's family were high on a new drug called Valkyr. Side note, because this will be important later. There's a lot of references to Norse mythology in this game, and each time one is made, I'll do a quick aside to explain it, as believe it or not, it will be important later. The drug is named after the Valkyries, mythological beings who choose who dies in a battle and carry warriors to Valhalla. So, Max wanted revenge and/or closure. However, in light of his family's death, it took 3 years to get any leads on the people behind it. Can you imagine? 3 years for any hint of a lead to come forward after the death of your most beloved people in the world. You're going to be one hell-bent dude when you finally get your hands on those responsible, and this explains a lot of the aggression that is about to follow. Anyway, Max's lead was a tip-off from a dime dropper, whatever that is, that Jack Lupino of the Puccinello crime family was trafficking drugs. So, Max went undercover to find out more. Max's tip-off led him to meeting his colleague Alex under the instruction of his boss, BB, at Roscoe Street Station. All the while, there's a storm brewing in New York City, a snowstorm, one that will grow through environmental storytelling and optional radio and TV segments throughout the game, gradually getting worse and worse. I think on the surface this is done to represent the aggro level of Max. The more tangible information he gets his hands on in pursuit of closure, the more unstoppable he becomes against all of his foes. Near the end of the game, all of the common enemies know him by name. It's almost like he's flipping Batman or something, a murderous myth, clearing out the underground of New York City. But dig a little deeper, and even this snowstorm is a key part of the Norse meta-narrative. Anyway, Max mentions that something doesn't feel right about this meetup, and just maybe it is his own face. Alex wasn't there. The platform is totally quiet and devoid of people. This is obviously off for a subway station, and it leads us to go searching in one of the offices. Just before the office door, the keen-eyed among us would notice empty bullet shells on the floor. Now, I don't live in America, but to me this indicates something is wrong. To the standard American, I assume this is just normal. Before progressing, I let the intrusive thoughts win and decide to try and headbutt a train and lose. Now Max clearly had his suspicions about the meeting point, and so did I.
I'm scared. I'm very scared. There was blood all over the walls and gunshots on the tiles. Something was off.
In the next room, we find the source of the blood. On the way back, we hear some gooners and shoot with no questions asked. It's implied they're criminals, but there really isn't that much certainty. They could have just been some homeless dudes before we started blasting, but when they started shooting back, it was obvious that these guys are baddies. We continue through the station, shooting and asking questions later. Slow-mo death scenes are slow-mo death scening, and I'm getting a serious hit of nostalgia directly into my veins. That yearning I get for the charm of games from days gone, it hits really hard, and the controls and the mechanics are simple but tight. So all of it works really well together and makes for an enjoyable experience in 2025. I pick up a shotgun as I progress down to the lower floors of the station. I find 2 guys in a room, taking out one whilst the other is cowering in fear. But as he is explaining to me that he was a hostage, I thought I saw him reaching, so... After that game over, I was thrown right back to the start of the mission, and this leads me nicely into my first criticism of the game, the saving system. The pace of this game really deserves a tight autosave mechanic. It's really punishing sometimes, especially in the heat of the moment. Later in the game, you can be surprised game-ended in a couple of bullets from every corner. The lack of an autosave meant that I lost heaps of progress quite a few times. It basically led me, at the end of the game, to be jamming F5 after every bullet I shot, to ensure that I didn't have to repeat long parts of the level. But that in itself, whilst the solution to the problem, kind of hindered the freedom in which I wanted to be blasting through these goons with. Half of my attention was focused on hitting the save button after every encounter, rather than reveling in the chaos that just erupted, and trusting the save system more. But I think this is just one of the characteristics of older games. and can be put up to a sign of the times of games from that era. Anyway, we take that hostage, this time without filling him full of shotgun bullets, to the control room of the subway station to start up one of the trains so we can get out of here. He puts in the code to the control room.
Home free. This way. What the?
Are you serious right now, bro?
This guy was doomed either way, man. The Grim Reaper totally had his number here. All roads led to becoming a storage bag for shotgun bullets. RIP. We blast our way through the control room, which is just huge amounts of fun. The shooting gallery / environments for the time this came out are really well set up and have just the right amount of graphical detail to support the gameplay and the vibe they were going for. After we activate the train, we hop on and start beep booping all the buttons until it moves. Subsequently, we crash the thing to f*** and proceed on foot, taking out gooners on the way. Turns out this train route led to an abandoned part of Roscoe Street Station, and Max notes that something fishy McFarty must be going down, so we press on.
Surprise!
You'll notice we've gone from a subway station to a bank vault. These gooners used an old route through a subway to break into a bank vault and grab some cash. This is a very die-hard way to rob a bank, and I really like it. What I don't like is this alarm sound that sounds like it's straight ripped from an iPhone alarm clock set. Once again, the phone is ringing, so I pick it up.
We come to you now live from the crime scene.
Who is this?
Right back at you.
This is Deputy Chief Jim Bravura from the NYPD. You are to cease your criminal activities and surrender immediately.
Sure thing, Jim. Me and the boys have been talking and everyone's real sorry. They'll never do it again.
We find a couple of clues of what the bank robbers were actually after. Aesir Corporation bonds, another Norse reference named after the Aesir, the gods of the Norse pantheon, Odin, Thor, etc. It kind of implies that this company, the Aesir Corporation, are like gods themselves. This pharma company apparently was on the rise too, and these bonds are worth the big bucks. We actually saw an Aesir poster on the subway earlier at the start of the game, which is a nice attention to detail for those that notice stuff like this. After sarcastically making ourselves look very guilty on the phone and grabbing the explosives the bank robbers used, we're faced with a very simple puzzle that takes me a very long time to figure out. I assumed we'd be blasting our way out of one of the unopened doors in this room, but no, you have to backtrack all the way to the old station and use it on some random door. This took me a while to figure out, and I even ended up googling it, which I'm pretty ashamed of. When we blast this door to come, we emerge to find Walter White waiting for us on the other side. This is Alex Balder, one of the only dudes we trust in the game, and is a direct reference to the Norse mythology that is so heavily tied to the game. Balder is a Norse god, whose death signals the beginning of Ragnarok. As us and Balder are shooting the shit about Lupino's gooners and bank robbery, some dude sneaks up behind him and shoots the shit out of his bald ass head.
Alex? Alex!
Balder's death in game parallels Balder the god's death. Both symbolize the start of the apocalypse, Ragnarok. However, in game, that apocalypse is the one-man revenge machine that is Max Payne. And as you'll see, a whole lot of people are about to meet their end. We finally make it out of the subway station, Max saying in the cutscene that Alex had kept him relatively sane over the past few years since losing Michelle. Max kind of recognizes that Balder knew too much about something and ended up paying the price. With Balder gone, Max was ready to go full cuckoo on those responsible, with no one to keep him sane this time. First stop, a dirty hotel where Lupino ran his various crime operations from. Max also says that he anticipates that the police are going to blame him for Alex's death. It ain't looking good. Using his undercover status, he walks into Lupino's hotel and finds the Finito brothers, two of the more important goons that work for Lupino.
Don't answer that. A rhetorical question. I got something for the boss. Lupino around?
That kind of depends on who's asking.
A lot of these cutscenes are so good, they'll just have the most munted still shots from Max in there as something relatively serious is going down. I mean, is this the face you would be making as you're about to get revenge on someone who killed your best friend? It's meme gold. After a little exchange of bullets, the Finito brothers are, well, finito. Max finds another letter on the desk whereby Lupino, through the Finito brothers, names another accomplice, his right-hand man, Vinny Gogniti. Gogniti, as per this letter, was in charge of running his rackets, Max pointing out that whilst this guy had the brains, he didn't have the cojones, you know? Vinny apparently would take his frustration out on underage addicts and cool girls. Yeah, so this guy's most likely going to catch a few bullets too. There's a V deal taking place at Gogniti's hotel, and due to Gogniti's lack of balls, Lupino is sending someone called Rico Muerte to help see the deal through. According to Max, this guy's like Kaiser Soze. This is a reference to a film called The Usual Suspects, another mob story, and Soze in that film represents an almost mythical gangster, whereby everybody knows about him and tells stories about his exploits, but no one has ever met him, and all accounts are viewed as semi-unreliable until his identity is revealed at the end of the movie. It's a cool reference and attempts to characterize some of the antagonists in this game. To one of media's greatest ever villains, I just wanted to point out. So yeah, we're going to head to room 313 of this hotel, as this is the one that was being denoted in the letter by the Finito brothers as Muerte's room. And when we get to the hotel, more holes are going to be put into more goons. And hopefully we can kill a mythical crime lord. I want to note at this point in the game that I really like all the little interactions you can do with the environment. Whether it's opening the window blinds for no reason, other than to create atmosphere, or press the vibrate button on the bed in this sleazy motel room. You can also interact with the radios to hear updates on the game's story through news broadcasts and regular updates on the weather. You can even catch up on the in-universe TV shows, such as Lords and Ladies, which is stated at the beginning of the episode to be funded by, you guessed it, the Acer Corporation. But I chose to switch that noise off. This added level of interaction lightly fleshes out the action and gameplay sequences. And it reminds the player of the story rather than solely getting lost in said action. It's a good balance. We walk into a room where some dude seems to have died, the way we all probably would want to, injected full of an experimental drug on a vibrating bed in a sleazy hotel with a bunch of hookers. Go well, King. Next we arrive at Muerte's room, and I think I brute force my way past a trap here by just running blindly into a dangerous area like I'm Alex Mason from Black Ops 1. Either that, or this shotgun trap was just poorly put together, as it goes off like 12 minutes after I entered the room. No one was in Muerte's room, and Max finds a letter. Whilst this letter mentions yet another gangster, Angelino Puccinello, who essentially is Lupino's boss, this isn't important to Max right now, as he sees no concrete link yet between Puccinello and the V case, which is driving his hell-bent revenge crusade. So he screws up the letter, and moves on to find Lupino. We use this tank to smash through a floor below and start raining hell on some more goons. As we move on, we start to find V-addicts, just doing the fent fold in the corner there. These will be a different enemy variant to regular goons, and they'll pop up in different sections of the game. Some of them are relatively docile and relatively non-hostile, but apart from that, they're pretty much the same enemy once they start blasting. I find the diary of a hooker, Candy Dawn. She talks of a mystery hag and one-eyed Alfred. This mystery hag seems to be paying for her sex tapes of this one-eyed Alfred. This will become important later in the story. I have to admit there are a lot of names that get thrown at you early in the game and it's kind of hard to keep track of. We get down in the basement of Lupino's hotel and hear another TV announcement about the weather. It makes you think, why is this referred to so much? But as Max says, because of the storm there's less chance of innocent people being out on the streets, and logically there's less chance of them being caught in any crossfire between us and the goons. This is a good inclusion from both a story and mechanical perspective. Less resources, time and money spent in development on trying to flesh out innocent pedestrians running away from the gunfire. I love when games work the limitations of the technology into the story and lore of the universe. It's similar to how they used the fog in Silent Hill 2 when they encountered issues with the draw distance. Sometimes these limitations, like the cutscenes referenced earlier, make the game better. We enter a room to find a dead man tied to a chair with a baseball bat on the floor, and with that a newspaper clipping depicting Baseball Bat Boy, a cartoon character that is obviously situationally relevant to the scene we've entered. This is a cool scene because you can almost picture exactly from the evidence provided what went down before you arrived. A mobster with a bat interrogating or torturing this dead guy using the comic strip to taunt him. We progress deeper into the basement where we find V, and money being exchanged by more unnamed mobs. After we cremate all of them, we finally find the man, the myth, the fat guy, with his pants down getting his sausage seasoned behind the bar, Rico Muerte. And who's doing the seasoning, may you ask? Candy Dawn, the hooker whose diary we read earlier. We have a big fight in the bar here, taking out Candy in the process. Rico runs out the back, still with his pants down, and as I go out thinking I've got an easy shot in the back, as he runs away... Wait, when was the last time I said...
No way am I back here.
Yeah, this game put me all the way back at the beginning of the basement. This is what I mean about the autosave. I get back to Muerte eventually, and fail quite a few times in killing him, which means because I hadn't figured out how to skip cutscenes yet that I watched this one about 5 or 6 times, and it was really grating. The more I looked at it, the more I realised that the actors are so incredibly low budget that, despite the fact sex was happening in the scene, these comic book strip panels and the scenes within can quite easily come off as looking like the introduction to a low-budget porn film. And the voice acting only exacerbates this in some cases.
I strangled them both with the video game cables.
Oh, Rico, you're so bad.
From what I understand, the actors were genuinely just people from the development studio's staff too. Fun fact, I'm sure you all know, Max Payne's character and his face model in-game are taken from Sam Lake, the game's writer. But his voice, as mentioned earlier, is by James McCaffrey. This game was so cheap that even Sam's mum and dad acted in some of the scenes. I think this is felt most in the voice acting, you know, where people just filled in place of real actors in some cases. But it's all part of the charm that makes this stay a cult classic over time. Anyway, get this, I fucking save-scummed my way into this corridor with 0 health and no painkillers. I was stuck in an endless loop of Muerte cutting me down with his OP submachine gun, with his trousers around his ankles and his little fat cock swinging around, whilst I was just rolling the dice hoping that my bullets would hit him more times than his me. I didn't even have any slow-mo juice, I was getting cooked.
No way. No way.
Honestly, whether I would progress now or in 2 days' time was mostly up to the RNG here, but again, it made for a funny sequence of events and a unique memory of my playthrough in hindsight. Anyway, I get lucky and stun-lock the fatty with my Beretta, and after eating 967 bullets, he finally goes down. This guy and many of the bosses in the game are basically just bullet sponges, that I think unfortunately is just another sign of the times. We find a telephone switchboard behind him, something that was used to listen into the hotel's communications between the hookers and the guests. Max listens in to a dying goon giving a call to Gogniti, telling him how we just stormed in and started game-ending everyone. In his last breath, he couldn't believe the size of our balls to do such a thing. Gogniti is all like,
Are you freaking kidding me? He's just one lousy cop. You better be freaking kidding me. Whack him. What's the freaking problem? Hello? Answer me. Hello?
God, that accent is horrendous, isn't it? I'm English, right? So I don't know what that accent is. Is it New York or Boston? Christ, it's just so whiny in this game. It feels like someone's got a screwdriver in my ear and is twisting it with every word. Sorry to all of those I may have offended with that, but it's true.
The word was out. A deadly virus released into the city's corrupt circulatory system. Something wicked this way comes. Max Payne at large.
Anyway, we get a big shootout on the way out of the hotel, accompanied by some very 2000s music. The lack of painkillers makes a lot of these fights in the game really intense. A lot of the time I'm literally one shot, like I would genuinely say 70% of the fighting I'm doing, I'm 1 or 2 shots away from death. And I can't help but think, would the game be better if it upped the difficulty but gave you more health, leaning into the power fantasy more? The action and the tone screams power fantasy, but the gameplay is saying survival. I don't know, it just feels a bit weird to me. We get outside and go to head to the next location, and when we arrive there, a bomb goes off blowing up the building. This is done by a new character, a man named Vladimir, a Russian man obviously, and he leads an opposing crime ring. As he leaves, they crash into an 18-wheeler, causing another crash, and as we look back at the building, more bombs go off. That's a lot of bombs. Anyway, Lupino was on the top floor. We enter through the basement and unfortunately get trapped by fire, with no other option than to test if fire hurts when you have slow motion superpowers. It does alright, but this isn't the only time I had trouble in that basement. Turns out I wasn't trapped, I just hadn't got my brain into gear. You're meant to shoot these obviously explodable canisters to blast open the door at the other end of the corridor. For some reason I decided a baseball bat is the optimum way to achieve this.
Okay.
Why did that explosion cause me to projectile bleed out of my ass?
Am I speaking to Mr. Payne?
Who wants to know?
My name is Alfred Woden. You must hurry. The police are on their way.
Tell me something I don't know.
They know you're there.
How? And what's it to you?
I will contact you again.
Alfred. Alfred? When have we seen that name before? Wait, One-Eyed Alfred. The one who was getting freaky with Candy Dawn. Or, the late Candy Dawn.
What a rotten way to die.
Anyway, this Alfred Woden here seems to be on our side. We can tell this because he's giving us information, a heads up that the police are on their way to stop us on our crusade. His name is also a huge Norse mythology reference too. His name is literally Odin, the Allfather. You think this is tenuous? Look it up. In some texts, Odin is called Woden. They are considered the same person in Norse mythology. Anyway, we see Jim Bravera, the deputy chief, is here. He's looking for us and calls us out by name. We find a note on our way out from Gogniti, talking about a hit on a rival Russian gang. Without a doubt, this is the one led by Vladimir that we saw in the black car leaving the scene earlier.
As it turned out, the Russian had plenty of guts. One thing you could count on, you push a man too far and sooner or later he'd start pushing back.
Because of the bombs, our route to Gogniti's room is obstructed, and with the SWAT team in hot pursuit behind us, we need to cross into another dark and heavily guarded / drug addict infested building to carve out a path. Everyone in my way dies a horrible death. Bullets are shared with more generosity than old Italian mother handing out garlic bread at Christmas. We hit a dead end at the laundry en route to get Gogniti, and we find a man that can get us through this door.
No, don't shoot.
You know the clowns at the laundry?
Me? No.
You're no good to me then.
What? No, the laundry, yeah. I know him, yeah.
Get me in there.
Okay.
I love when games of this era don't bother hiring region-appropriate actors for their role. We take Asian Man 1 to the door and he gets us in, then goes back to living his happy, innocent life, most likely with his loving wife and child. Sorry, bro. There were some interesting moments and references in the laundry. There's a moment where I encounter a man stuck in a bathroom, a bit like that scene from Pulp Fiction, but he never comes out, so I don't know if this was just a bug. Then I break into a room, and after clearing it, I seem to have encountered a television that's playing the in-universe version of Twin Peaks. What's in the show is a clear reference to the Red Room of that show, with the obvious red walls and zigzag flooring.
It says, mirrors are more fun than television. That's mirrors are more fun than television.
I feel like this show is a big influence for Remedy, as evident in their other titles. And like the show earlier, it helps to make the world feel lived in, whilst also creating quite a scary atmosphere. That isolated scream is kinda scary, to be honest.
I have no idea what that means.
Even after this, we get this wall falling down around the door, which feels like a reference to that famous Buster Keaton scene. Anyway, that's enough references.
Vinny Gogniti, just the man I've been killing to see.
Payne? Freaking fed! I knew from day one there was something screwy about you. What do you think you're doing? You're a freaking cop. You ain't got squad on us. You can't just come in here waving your piece like it meant something. Yeah! Oh my god! Oh god, you shot me! Ah!
That delivery is so funny.
Oh my god, you shot me, oh my god!
That literally sounds like they got a voice actor from Rick and Morty to deliver it and dialed up the sarcasm to 11. I do not believe this is how a gangster that has just been shot expresses pain. Anyway, the supposedly injured Cogniti bails and we're left to survive the onslaught of 3 goons in a small space, made even harder by the fact that I have no painkillers, obviously. After doing so, we find a letter from Cogniti to Puccinello, that other crime boss from earlier. It says that Lupino killed one of his men the other day just because they wanted to see what their brains would look like sprayed all over the wall. Lupino, addicted to his own supply, seems to be losing it. And it's got Cogniti feeling like a bit insecure, reaching out to Puccinello for help. However, Cogniti didn't actually have the balls to send this letter. As alluded to earlier, he lacks guts with this sort of stuff. Anyway, lore aside, we have to chase this rat across the rooftops, in what actually turns out to be quite a fun sequence. In the cutscenes, we can hear his shaky breathing, once again reinforcing this guy's lack of a spine when things get a bit crazy. However, Max points out that it's fear that gives people wings, and that it did with Cogniti jumping off the rooftop onto a train to make his escape. But Max is equal to it and follows suit. They both disembark onto more rooftops and the chase continues. There's a pretty long and relatively uninterrupted period where we're just Max Payning to the max, dropping in on goons, getting up to slow motion nonsense and ignoring our dire need for painkillers.
Let's go.
When we finally catch up to the slippery fellow that clearly specced all of his character points into stamina and charisma, we have a relatively long and drawn out final fight where, despite his lack of balls, he shows off his incredible skill at eating bullets and grenades. Max interrogates him for Lupino's location. In between this, beautiful vignettes of his happy life before all of this started. He didn't feel any glory in catching Gogniti or being a hero. Oh, and I kinda started crashing out at this point in the playthrough.
Big dark swarms. The good and the just were like gold dust in the city. I had no illusions. I was not one of them. I was no hero. Just me and the gun and the crook. My options.
The mouth sounds on this narration are insane. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
I don't know what it is with this voice line recording for Max, but it picked up so many mouth sounds that I almost threw up. Gogniti, after revealing the location, begs for his life. Anything but death. What little weasel.
Lupino's at Ragnarok, the nightclub. Book me. Take me in, hold me to the freaking jail. Just don't hurt me.
Whilst we don't hear the gunshot, it is implied we painted the pavement with this guy's brains. Next up, Ragnarok, Lupino's private nightclub. We're talking drugs, debauchery, and of course, gooners. Oh, and the name of the nightclub, yeah, Norse shit. Don't need to explain that one, I don't think. We pick up a number of books as we progress through the nightclub. Each one demonic and disturbing, and most importantly, culty in theme judging by the title alone.
Whoa, dog!
After putting myself back together and delivering more gooners to hell, I progress further into the dark and disturbing club. I just want to say, I really like the level design here. It's a nice change up from the derelict buildings and hotels. This feels like it's straight out of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, although given that it came out before, maybe it inspired that game instead. But yeah, it's got a bit of everything. A bit of noir, a bit of the eerie, the scary, and the supernatural.
The backstage area led to Lupino's inner sanctum.
Mouth sounds
The
are
hot
back.
air inside was like an invisible wall, thick with incense and something else, a sickly sweet smell that made you gag. This was the rotten core of the Big Apple. Lupino lurked somewhere ahead, like a spider at the center of his web, waiting.
We find a letter from Puccinello to Lupino, threatening him to get back in line after he's fallen off the wagon, or he'll send the trio, 3 henchmen, after him.
Beelzebub, Asmodeus, Baphomet, Lucifer, Loki, Cthulhu, Lilith, Hela, blood given to you all. Mythic wolves, let loose to devour the sun and the moon. Lupino is the wolf. I'm Mr. Beast, the big bad Fenris wolf.
Obviously, that hasn't worked. We proceed up to his sanctum as a church bell rings out of tune ominously. We enter to see big red curtains draped all around what looks to be a fountain of blood. We fight off numerous leathered goons. Jesus Christ. Leathered goons. Pino comes out to fight like a man. My man is rocking a face tattoo now, and I'm sure that it's got nothing to do with the drugs. He preaches on a bit here, but I'll save you the hassle.
Death is coming!
It's so funny that in the next cutscene, Max is just straight up unloading on him. We're well past the point of double tapping by a long way. He would have gone on longer if he wasn't interrupted by a real-life woman. Oh yes, oh boy.
I think he's dead already.
Huh? And that's when it happened.
But dead or not, you've got the wrong guy.
In stepped this knockout femme fatale holding a gun to my face. I returned the favor.
This is the twin sister of Puccinello's wife, Mona Sachs, and oh boy is she very cool. The pair are doing a little dance with the guns, keeping them aimed at each other's chins whilst they start to warm to each other. Mona tells Max that he got the wrong bad guy. Puccinello organized the killing of his wife. And Mona also wants to get him because Puccinello beats his wife, i.e. her sister. They agree to team up and sit down for a drink. Isn't this super noir right now? Having a whiskey with a smoking hot babe we just met? Are we noiring? I think I may have noired in my pants. Oh no, wait, it was the poison. I've been poisoned. Mona has poisoned us, and we slip into a dream sequence, one that is completely driven by Max's trauma. We run through endless and morphing hallways as we hear our dead baby and wife crying. Personally, I wasn't sure based off the vibe of the game if I was about to get jump scared. After the long hallways, we arrive at our old house, but it isn't long before we're traversing the void, trying to stick closely to the bloodline else we fall to our death and have to reload an autosave from 7 years ago. After we pass the latest trauma test, we find Michelle's diary. She had been working in the district attorney's office before she died. Within the diary, it turns out that she was mistakenly given an army dossier. Now, I'm sure you all know that this is another Norse reference, Valhalla is the hall where warriors slain in battle go, chosen by the Valkyries. Anyway, her diary says that she tried to tell Max, but he was busy. This is an interesting way to develop the narrative. Max is obviously recalling details from before when he read it in the diary IRL after she died, but it's a smart way to present new information to us, the player. Nothing in these dreams is stuff that Max doesn't already know about. And next we see images of Max killing his wife, but this is nothing more than misdirection. I suppose this might fool some people into thinking that he was the killer all along, but honestly I wasn't convinced. What it's trying to say is that Max feels responsible for their deaths indirectly, but to the point where he deep down feels like he might as well have held the gun himself. We awake to Mr. Baseball Boy Batman.
Batman, I caught a little Pokemon.
Or Frankie Niagara, another one of Puccinello's tougher goons. It's a repeat of the scene we saw earlier, except now we're in the hot seat. Max gets a bit mouthy and catches a few whacks to the head. 3 to be exact. However, somehow, Max is still not only reflecting on his actions, is doing so with remarkable cognitive skill. He really should be dead or a vegetable at least after that. We break free, but we don't have any weapons, so we pick up the baseball bat and cautiously try to find our first victim. We do so, and from there start to build our weapon arsenal back one body at a time. Not too much different happens in the early part of this mission, but we emerge onto the street and back to the familiar hotel we were pursuing Muerte in earlier. Inside we find a letter from Puccinello to Frankie the Batboy bro, essentially telling him to kill us in a painful way. Aha, get it? Pain. I introduced many goons to the tip of my favourite bullets, once again in this hotel before leaving. We see in the cutscene that we were being tailed, and it's the same car that set the bombs off at the hotel earlier in the game. And the big Russian man, obviously called Vladimir, as every Russian man was in those days, makes us an offer we cannot refuse. Basically, this dude called Boris Dime betrayed him and joined Puccinello. He's in charge of a cargo ship that's carrying some serious weaponry. Vlad's concerned that if his men get their hands on this weaponry, that Vlad's own criminal gang will be toast. But what's in it for Max? Well, if he helps out, he can keep some of the extra firepower, as well as weakening the Puccinello's firepower, who he's going to be doing lots of fighting with coming up. So Max agrees to help him out and screw this dude up in the process. The level starts with us in the docks. We fight through, as you'd expect, but in one container we find a sniper rifle and a briefcase full of cash. Do you remember when it was mentioned that Muerte owed Puccinello after they bailed him out on some other job earlier in the game? Well, this was the favor the Don was calling back in. There was a piece of paper just saying Mayor next to the other items. However, Max said this doesn't feel like it was written by gangsters, noting that it was too cold and to the point for it to be from Puccinello. Anyway, we'll circle back to that later. We continue making our way to the boat, and when we get there, we pick up a call from Puccinello himself. We wind him up, less so with our words, and more so with our relentless ability to avoid dying and impart death upon others. We must be a really frustrating antagonist to these guys. On the lower decks, we come into contact with Boris Dime and cancel his subscription to life. There's an armory at the back of the boat, and we pick up everything we need for the new crusade on Puccinello himself, including some new weapons like the Colt Commando that we've not seen before. Max meets Vlad and says, hey, thanks for all that gear. But he says this is his mission, and his mission alone. He doesn't want any help from Vlad in taking out Puccinello from here on.
Even with all this firepower, I figured I couldn't get to Puccinello at his manor. I could only hope that he wouldn't pass a chance to hear me beg to see he's won. This is Max Payne. I want to cut a deal.
Payne, you're a dead man.
That's what everybody keeps telling me. I got your ship and her cargo. I want to meet. No pain, no gain. Capiche?
You know my restaurant?
Yeah, I know it.
And off we go on our merry way to Puccinello's restaurant. As soon as we walk in, the whole place starts to just explode to fuck, which really, we probably should have seen coming. One man walking into the Don's own restaurant. To be honest, blowing the place up is probably the best Max could have hoped for. Why wouldn't he just sit him down, talk to him for a bit, have some bread and wine, then ambush him with like 20 gooners with machine guns and just fill him full of lead? Honestly, this would be the most certain way to kill Max, and it has a bit of that noir and mafia aura to it. I can't really get my head around why a character would cremate their own restaurant like this just to kill Max. It's so unnecessary and uncertain of actually completing the task it set out to. It does seem like a rash decision from Puccinello to do this, and realistically, I guess the only explanation would be that Max has gotten under his skin. And like he actually said earlier, he's hoping to wind him up so much that he forces a misstep from Puccinello. Anyway, running away from the fire sequence, over. We encounter some gooners by the exit, which, in this case, is through the sewers. Outside, Vlad is waiting to drive us to Puccinello's manor.
The night groaned with cold. The garden lights flickered nervously. In their light, the falling snow was dead white before the darkness ate it up. I had heard the stories. The trio were mad dogs. They'd have hung the heads of their enemies over the manor gates if the capo had only let them. Puccinello wanted pain. He'd see the pain.
God, everything that comes out of this guy's mouth is either poetry or campy action hero spew. It's very fun. When Max arrives, he finds the back door open and all the guards dead. Assumably, this was Mona again, who drugged us at the Ragnarok's nightclub. The trio, who were mentioned earlier, would be the first on our list to murderize before we make our way to Puccinello himself. At this point, you'd probably think I'd have the gameplay down to a T, wouldn't you? A master of the combat and gunplay. Nope. We find some tarot cards on the kitchen table depicting the Tower, Death, and the Devil. These were Lisa's, Puccinello's wife, the twin sister of Mona Sachs, who we met earlier, and who we are near certain is on a similar rampage to kill Puccinello for beating Lisa. Now, this is a quite interesting little motif here, as it represents triple meaning. So firstly, the literal meaning is as Max says. The others we'll come back to later. We burst into the next room, and the first member of the trio is just sat there with his boys, pre-aiming the flipping door with automatic weapons. I thought after this that I'd learned their moveset, but in the next attempt they just rush me and I once again meet my end via my very own grenade. Now the grenade thing is just trademark bag at this point, but to be fair, I didn't have the 20-year-old AI down as being able to learn my attack patterns like I was the Dark Souls boss or something. The next attempt goes even worse. My god. I don't even open the door this time, and I hard reset myself. Eventually, I start to make some progress, and after I get the first two with the grenade, I save scum and just quickscope the last one in the end. As we fight our way through the manor, we take out the second of the trio, as well as countless gooners. We eventually get to the room where, unfortunately, we find Lisa Puccinello dead on her bed. The scene of the death draws parallels to Max's own trauma, so much so that it makes you think, did Puccinello kill his own wife like this on purpose just to fuck with Max? Is he that much of a monster? In the next room, we get another phone call from Woden, once again giving us more information on what lies ahead. This time, an armed helicopter has landed to try and stop us from killing maybe every single person in the world at the rate we're going. Then after that, we take out the final member of the trio. Now only Puccinello lies ahead.
Outside my door. Hurry. It's coming for me. You gotta hurry. Please.
I could hear Puccinello on the phone begging for help. He should have been saying his goodbyes. Puccinello was a pushover. The moment I stepped into the room, he folded like a deuce before a royal flush.
No, wait. I was just doing what I was told. I couldn't refuse. She's someone high up. Government, maybe. I don't know.
He was trying to buy more sand for his hourglass. I wasn't selling any.
Before we know it, those armed guards storm in and, surprisingly, firstly shoot the cum out of Puccinello. As he professes he told us nothing, but they don't care. We just about survived this ourselves, but exiting the room, we're really outnumbered this time. Nothing we can do here.
I could tell when I was outgunned. It was time to take another beating. The mystery witch was a real barracuda. Trouble on dagger heels, a smoking assault rifle in her hand, and an army of killer suits behind her.
How sweet. I get to kill two birds with one stone.
Sooner or later, it was going to catch up with you.
Mr. Payne, it's time to show you the benefits of my brew. Be a good boy now.
You'd find that Lady Luck was really a hooker. You were fresh out of cash.
That was Nicole Horn, the real antagonist of the game, and, believe it or not, another reference to Norse mythology. This one is a bit more tenuous in name, but will make sense later. I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly. Gjallarhorn is the horn blown to signal Ragnarok, the end of the world. Anyway, The mystery which, as Max says, gives us a serious dose of Valkyrie, and shit starts to hit the fan. Oh no, not another fucking dream sequence. There better not be any jump scares in this. This sequence sends us absolutely loopy, and we awaken a gloomy and twisted version of Puccinello's office combined with our old house. This is obviously undercut with sounds of our wife crying out for us. Every time we get to our room in this dream sequence, the scene resets, and then delivers some trippy and fourth wall breaking moments.
The letter was staring at me. There was something disturbingly familiar about the letter before me. The handwriting was all pretty curves.
You're in a graphic novel.
The truth split my skull open, a glaring green light washing the lies away. All of my past was just fragmented still shots, words hanging in the air like balloons. I was in a graphic novel. Funny as hell. It was the most horrible thing I could think of.
This then happens again, but altered this time to show Max that he's in a video game, with the middle panel showing the weapon selection menu above his in-game character model. The audio design in this dream sequence is like something out of Silent Hill. Listen to this.
Oh, fuck. Oh, not this shit again.
The final boss of this sequence is having to kill the shooter of our wife, who in this instance is also us. Once again, the game tries to misdirect us into believing it was us who killed our wife. We hug Michelle in a cutscene after, with an evil twisted version of ourselves peering uncannily from behind. Max saying he can feel the bullet holes on her chest. I'm not surprised you can feel those bullet holes. After all that nonsense, we finally awake in the real world with a mean hangover.
I felt like flatlining. I was all shook up. I woke up in a cold sweat, sick and tired to the bone, lying in a puddle of my own puke.
Those sound effects were, lovely. Next we head to Cold Steel Factory to pursue our third vendetta of the game. When I break in through the roof, I show just how below average I really am when it comes to basic gaming logic. Jesus, stand back bag, what were you thinking? Then I decide I think I can... The difficulty starts to jump here. No longer are we fighting basic gooners, we're fighting well-trained and heavily armed guards as we make our way through the factory. Only question is, what are they protecting out here so much? Whilst the enemy has gotten harder, we've also leveled up in terms of competency, and the gameplay itself is nothing new, so we cut through them like a hot knife through butter, and we unveil what they were actually protecting. Below the factory is a secret lab where V is being manufactured. This place is kept well under wraps by the suits.
My men are still inside.
Do you have any idea why this is called Operation Deadeyes?
I think he's dead already.
Yeah, just enough bullets, I reckon. They rig the place to blow, obviously conscious that Max is going to expose everything they do down here. Max notices the logo on the floor as we enter. The V on it, he concludes, stands for Valkyrie, or Valhalla. The dots were starting to connect for Max. On the lower floors, I find an innocent victim of V and baseball bat him to death. It seemed like the friendliest thing to do. We also free one of the scientists to help us get through the decontamination airlock to the next area. The guards are now going through the facility, killing everyone there. All evidence is being erased with a brutal certainty. We access a computer terminal to hear this.
Top secret. Project Valhalla. U.S. Army. Yggdrasil Network. Valhalla. The otherworldly place in Norse mythology where the bravest heroes spent their afterlife feasting and fighting forever, their wounds miraculously healed night after night. Valkyrie, the maidens who chose the most courageous Viking warriors and carried them to Valhalla. 1991. The research objective is to create a chemical substance to enhance the stamina and morale of infantry troops. 1995. Results unsatisfactory. Project cancelled.
Someone had decided to continue the sick experiment unauthorized.
So, Project Valhalla was a cancelled military operation originally. That, as Max said, someone decided to continue behind closed doors, for different reasons, and those reasons were...
money!
The Norse mythology references are going hard here. We've obviously heard of Valhalla and Valkyrie already, but they're explained word for word here for us. What even is the Yggdrasil network though? Well, this is quite interesting as it has 3 meanings. One in-game is the network that holds the information about the Valkyr project. 2 is the World Tree in Norse mythology, and 3 is actually a real-world experimental network system that you can download. I honestly don't know enough about IT to even explain what the hell this is IRL, so go look it up and comment down below if it's legit and try to explain to me in plain English that a baby would understand if you would recommend it and why. It's also noted in this cutscene that there was a data breach, and that a field test was authorized for the test subject. They were given double the dose and dropped off at Max's old address 3 years ago. Max had caught his mouse. Michelle was actually killed because of that information that was accidentally put on her desk. She was killed just to keep a secret. And the baby? I guess it's just the collateral damage you can expect when you let 2 drugged up psychopaths into a family home. Max now has closure and certainty and concludes that he's absolutely damned to fulfill his revenge mission. So next he moves on to get Horn. Time to kill Nicole Horn. We run out of the factory with it exploding behind us. Max starts to grow ever more reflective during the final scenes and act. He reflects on his own mental state and health.
I felt thin as death. I've been living on an endless supply of week-old donuts. They were fuel for this crazy furnace inside my head.
As Max is sat in the diner drinking coffee that he says tastes like engine oil, he gets a call from his old boss, BB. Remember the guy from the beginning from the DEA? Well, the timing of this call after Max has been declared a criminal tells Max that BB was part of the conspiracy too. Even without anything concrete, his image in the first frame of the cutscene when we meet him does look suspiciously like Alex Balder's killer from the end of the first mission. On top of that, Max points out that everything he was wearing was well beyond the means of what a cop is paid. He directly confronts BB, who goes running like a little pussy. So we chase him down like the one-man apocalypse we are. We kill 4 floors of bad guys before we reach him. Jesus, Max, the body count is getting quite out of hand, no? We also find this purple car, which I have decided is a direct reference to Homer Simpson's car in The Simpsons. We finally find Bob's Burgers and use the OP sniper to make this a quick fight. That side vendetta is over. Now, time for Horn. I've got to stop saying it like that. We pick up a call on a payphone and it's Alfred Woden again. He asks to meet at the Asgard building. Yeah, another Norse reference. Asgard being the home of the gods. Just so happens to be where Woden lives, who, as we've already discussed, is another name for Odin. So that all aligns. When we meet Woden, he introduces us to his inner circle, who worked on Project Valhalla during the Gulf War, before it was cancelled and got twisted into this mess. This is the first time we meet Woden in person, and he has one eye. Candy Dawn referred to him as One-Eyed Woden earlier in the game, so this all but confirms that she was selling sex tapes of this guy with her to Horn and the Puccinellos. They were buying it so that they could have leverage over him. Woden says his hands are tied in intervening with Horn and the matter at hand, most probably because she holds that dirt over him.
She has more than half the city in her pocket.
Woden then gives us the kill order. I mean, as you would if there was a woman like her that also had sex tapes of you doing freaky business, all moral obligations aside. Woden promises they can protect us after the kill, but before we can agree, Horn's killer suits burst in and start fucking everyone up, so we just defenestrate ourselves.
Impressive floor show, but I decided to leave early anyway. It was only a 1-story fall.
Once we've successfully defenestrated ourselves, we re-enter the building to kill everyone that just entered the building to kill us. The old switcheroo. We pass through the security room and see this.
On screen, the so-called corpse of Alfred Woden stood up, miraculously waking from his dirt nap, looking smug among his dead pals. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I didn't know how he'd pulled it off, but it was a pretty slick way to get out of all his promises. Most of what he had said fit too well to be a load of crap.
Can someone explain to me exactly how this works? Woden seems to have staged his own death. Did he organize it with those suits to kill everyone in the room apart from him? Or did he just get lucky? If he organized it, did he intend for them to kill Max too? Why would he kill all of his inner circle, and why is he trying to kill Max? Max is literally helping him keep his name clear. Also, if it wasn't staged and he just got lucky, or is an opportunist and the suits just didn't realize they hadn't killed him, then why in every other scene do these suits nail people with like 20 extra bullets, but not here? And how can we see him getting up smugly on the CCTV, but when we get back into the room that the shooting happened, the suits are still there? Surely they would have seen him get up. Anyway, as we progress through the building, we pick up the sex tape that was used to extort Woden, and we find detailed blueprints to the Acer HQ building where Horn would be at. They've highlighted the blueprints with essentially a plan for entering and getting to the top to complete our mission. We have a mini boss fight to get out of the building with some really horny suits, which is actually pretty challenging. When we get out, Max monologues that he took his time cruising around the city, building up enough rage to take on the Acer Corporation at its heart. There's nothing complicated about what Max has to do, and he doesn't need to rush, and he knows whose eye he needs to take now. Although the numerous other eyes he took along the way were also bad guys. Lots of eyes, has to be said. I actually wanted to look this up, and there are 652 kills in this game. That's a lot of lives for a petty revenge mission. No wonder the goons and suits all know about him, but by this point he must have quite the reputation. And now we reach the final act, the Tower of the Acer Corporation. Remember those tarot cards, the Tower, Death, and the Devil? It's interesting because their second meaning most likely relates to this, doesn't it? In a more literal way than when we found them in the manor. Here we have the Tower as the Tower, Death as Max again, and the Devil, the real devil of the game, Nicole Horn. Our final act begins at the front door of Acer Tower. No sneaking in the back door this time. Max is at his aggressive and vengeful peak. It's time to scrunt probably 100 dudes and fight our way to the top. As soon as you round the first corner, you're faced with a tall hallway with snipers and noob tubers up high. This bit is really difficult and I die like 8 times minimum. After this, it's all very Umbrella Corp. There are lasers and guards with shiny body armor and bullshit like this.
No. Wait.
We then meet Mona in the elevator and see this.
Mona, looking good.
Max, we gotta stop meeting like this.
It will be a cold day in hell before I let a narc cop stop me. Miss Sachs, do your job.
Relax, Max. You're a nice guy. I don't kill nice guys.
You're not bad yourself.
It was different when Horn wanted Punchinello dead. To cut her ties to the Mafia, he deserved to die.
The same goes with her. She's the bad guy here. Her sister was whispering to her in my favor. I knew the appetites of ghosts intimately. They hungered for revenge.
No!
A gunshot boomed and she fell down in slow motion. She was a nice girl, not really a stone-cold killer. And now she was stone-cold dead. Like religious fanatics or loyal samurai, Horn's private army was coming at me.
Max was being all poetic as usual and probably got lost looking at Mona's miniskirt. I know I did. Unfortunately though, whilst this was happening, Mona caught a bullet and is seemingly dead. I know Max said stone cold, but after we fight off these goons and go back to the elevator, her body is gone. That doesn't happen if the characters actually died, by the way. That's just Cinema 101. We then get this really cool elevator sequence. If you look up, you'll realize that the shaft has been booby-trapped with explosives. Oh, for fuck's sake. That sentence had the words shaft and booby in it. That was too much for me. Not 2 minutes after that first really cool elevator scene, we get another. We head into another elevator, and this one is facing outside of the building. A chopper then comes down and starts spraying. Instinctively, I hit the Max Payne dive and accidentally fly out of the window, only to land in another lift and press the button down to escape. 2 cool elevator moments is like 2 more than most games, so I just want to shout that out. I hope they keep moments like that in the upcoming remake, and don't replace it with a swamp level or a battle pass or something like every game has nowadays. Unfortunately, in the last elevator, nothing happens, but it's a cool touch because it kind of has you anticipating something and swinging your camera around wildly to see what's going to happen. The game kind of subverts its own expectations that it sets. It's kind of cool. Next, we find Horn's computer. Max lists out all the criminal and downright degenerate things he finds on there. Yes, including porn. And then he just shoots the monitor. Let's make the kill count 652 people and 1 innocent Dell computer. We kill more suits, and this time even fight off that chopper head on. We do meet it again in a minute as we're nervously traversing the edge of the building. At this point, the enemies are very powerful and can take relatively more bullets than previous enemies. I'm literally save scumming to high heaven at this point, and I'm surprised that it didn't end up soft locking me or crashing the game. I'm talking like saving after every time I reload or shoot a bullet. We make it to the roof. The helicopter is circling, ready to pick up Horn Dog. The metal cables that are stabilizing the giant antenna on top of the building are weak because of the storm. One breaks, and then we break another one. And finally, after breaking the last one left, it comes crashing down, exploding Horn Dog to a million pieces.
What a rotten way to die.
then plummeting many, many stories for another explosion. And just like that, we reach the beginning of the game. The opening scene plays out as Max looms over the edge of the building, his revenge, his Valhalla, complete. Now that is the face of a man who's just beaten the world to achieve his goal. Wow, spot on. I'm joking, this is the face I make when I fart a little bit and it kind of itches my butthole. Feels a little bit nice, you know? Honestly, the fact that they left this in the game, along with like all of the other memeable facial expressions, is why Max Payne is basically the first meme protagonist. It's not hard to get it right with a few more pictures when you are setting up these cutscenes, if they even wanted to. This level of satire is definitely on purpose, in my opinion. We see Woden in the crowd as we're arrested. Max has faith that he will say the word to absolve him of his sins, but the ending comes too early for us to see if he delivers on his promise. Now, that is a lot to take in. This being my first ever playthrough, I can see why this game is such a classic. It's really, really tight in all the right places for an older game. Why was that sentence so sexual? But you know what I mean. It's responsive, fun, like a known quantity when you walk into every level. Yes, that does mean the fights have relatively little variety, but it does little things here and there to keep you guessing, such as the elevator scenes. I also like that it can be interpreted in so many different ways too. Is it just a noir detective cops and robbers story, like a serious one, or is it a dark comedy? Is the satire so plentiful that you found yourself laughing at some of the shit throughout? The voice acting, the comic book panel scenes? Or is it just some crazy meta-narrative whereby all of the characters and locations are symbols of Norse mythology and events? No, surely not. But hang on a second. Boys, I think we have a game theory here. What is that? Vsauce soundtrack. Max Payne loves its mythology, and I don't just mean subtle nods here and there or naming things in a certain way. The drug Valkyr is named after the Valkyries who chose who dies in battle. The Aesir Corporation is literally named after the gods. Nicole Horn, the big bad, echoes Gjallarhorn, the horn that announces Ragnarok. And her actions in the game, if you're interpreting Max as a literal Ragnarok, kickstarts everything by essentially killing Michelle and Max's child. Poking the bear, if you will. The parallels hold true in so many ways. There's obviously a nightclub as well called Ragnarok, because fuck being subtle, right? And Max's partner, Alex Balder, that's Balder, whose death kicks off Ragnarok in Norse mythology. And that kind of holds true in game too. Alfred Woden, that's Odin. Odin is actually referred to as Woden sometimes, and they're considered the same deity. The Yggdrasil network, where Max uncovers the Valkyr project, is named after the World Tree. That project is called Valhalla, the resting place of warriors. Even the storm that is getting worse and worse throughout the game, that's also the literal snowstorm in Norse mythology, something that precedes Ragnarok by 3 years. Oh, and how long is Max Payne 1? Like in-game time? 3 nights. It's by no means subtle, not at all. I actually learned so much about Norse mythology against my will. But here's what makes it more than just set dressing, if that wasn't already enough for you. When you actually complete Max Payne, you start to realize that Max isn't just a guy caught up in a bad situation, he is Ragnarok. The mythology fits because Max himself is like an apocalypse figure. He walks in and death and destruction just surrounds him. He isn't like bringing justice really, he's just killing everyone that's in his way. I mean, with the exception of a hot babe in Mona Sachs. But that's beside the point. You kind of get the sense that Max knows it too. He doesn't play by the rules of a cop. He's literally burning evidence at one point, and he's executing gangsters, and he talks like a man that's already kind of dead, you know? He doesn't know what's going to happen afterwards. He just knows that his one purpose is to go and kill absolutely everybody that's upset him. The smart thing about this game is that Max seems to be aware of the fact that he's in a game or a novel. He literally narrates his life like one. And then there's that one scene when we're all drugged up that even shows himself in the game. And this kind of pre-written destination kind of is backed up by the way the game opens. It opens with the ending. Everything is predetermined. And there's this vibe that he just knows what's going to happen. He can run into Don Puccinello's restaurant without a care in the world because he knows he's going to get out because the final scene happened at the beginning that shows that he does. Adds this cool dimension to it. I don't know if I explained it so well, but I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, all the mythology references, narrative devices, even the depth that the tarot cards imply are cool. And I find it so interesting that this can work alongside a modern noir shoot-'em-up game that applies heavy doses of satire and downright memeable offenses to the concept of taking yourself seriously. Like, how on earth can all of those be true at the same time? It's a really unique game because of all of this, and it's something difficult to pull off if it wasn't made with competence and love by the developers. And I'm so glad I got the chance to play it, and almost embarrassed that it took me this long. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like my deep dives with satire and humour, stick around on my channel and check out my other videos. Leave a few comments. Knock yourself out. Peace.